Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Whitespace team bringing the webinar on the post-COVID recovery, business recovery environment. We thank you who is joining us today on the webinar today with us. And our today's speaker is Mr. Mihindu Rajaratne, who is the General CEO of Infrastructure, and he is also a transformation and business leader with 35 years of experience with several strategic leaderships, positions with more than 6 market leading organizations across 11 industries, followed by a 15-year trail of masterclass senior lecturer in strategic management, change management, and organizational behavior. In addition, he is also a passionate thought leader in business transformation, digital transformation, workforce productivity, entrepreneurship, and career coaching. So today, we will predominantly be discussing about business transformation, specifically after the pandemic that we have just had. And we have invited our expert speaker, Mihindu Rajaratne, to share his thoughts and his recommendations as to how the organizations could transform their businesses despite difficult times. In fact, Mihindu has a very interesting perspective to challenging times like this, and we are very happy to have him talking to the Whitespace team about it. So without taking much time, I will ask Mihindu to start the webinar now, and we will be recording this session as well. So after the session is done, we will be posting this on social media for others also to listen to it. And Mihindu, I will hand it over to you now and start the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Rish. Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to the first webinar of the Whitespace. Thank you for joining us with your busy schedule. Let me begin with the topic itself. Why I named this as New Whitespace? Because I believe COVID-19 has changed everything in the world. So it is not a new chapter of the old book, or it's an old chapter of the new book, or the first chapter of the new book. It's a blank book, and human civilization has to write the first page by themselves. So we have to create within ourselves on our own. And that is why we call this new white space. It's a blank page. How we respond to it matters to our future. So taking you through the presentation, I will take 10 to 15 minutes for the presenting the idea, and then leave the session for the audience to ask questions and make it a discussion forum. Before we begin the presentation, I would like to first correct simple terminology, and that will give us a completely different perspective. Because everywhere we go, media, mass media, speakers, everybody talk about post-COVID environment. In my personal opinion, we are not yet into post-COVID-19 environment. We are, in my view, whole world is still in the COVID-19 recovery environment. Because this perspective is very vital for business and the strategy and the understanding of the environment. So we are talking about business environment in a COVID-19 recovery environment, not post-COVID-19 environment. So let's look at what happened. You know what happened, but I would like to give you a complete different perspective. First thing that has happened, disruption to all ecosystems. When you refer to ecosystem, it's not about ecological system, but the business ecosystems. When you say ecosystem, it's a system which are not interdependent with all the organizations. Take for a Google, take for Apple, Say for any other business, you have suppliers, customers, stakeholders, shareholders, everybody. It's an interdependent ecosystem. So all the ecosystems suddenly disrupted and nobody was prepared. And therefore what will happen, we all got shattered with our comfort zones, including individual, business and countries. And we have heard these contingency plans in our business plans and a strategic management plan. And none of them were materialized except very few. Even the global organizations have failed to respond. And business continuity plans. We experience another shock in our personal life. We have a new lifestyle called quarantine life, and that has shattered few people, and some ended up in depression. And this happens, we don't know what next we should do, and therefore our minds went blank. And that's exactly what we experience. And for some, it is still happening. If you look at how this impact, what are the points of impact? Primarily, all ecosystems were overnight effect. Transport system, operation system, financial systems, administration system, public administration system, hospital system, the industries, all those were overnight affected because complete disruption. And very importantly, that not only that, there were restrictions on habitual human life. What do you mean by habitual human life? Like you morning get up, you free to travel, you in the traffic, you go to work, you have usual meetings, you have a usual chaotic day or a good day, and you continue business, you have business planning, you have debtors meeting, and all that was, and you have your workout, you have your friends, you have your chat, all that was affected. Suddenly you felt like a prisoner and you couldn't continue habitual human life. Still we are getting used to the habitual human life, right? So that would be an adoption process for all of us. And all established routine in businesses were completely disrupted. So those are the points of impact in short. So coming back to the summary of it, why this has happened. As a globe, as a human civilization, we have been ignoring signals. We were very excited about technological advantages. We were very excited about the geopolitical disruptions. We were very excited about what China will do to US. We were very excited about how India will progress and how India will respond to China and US. And there were some signals by the professionals given to the world. One example is Global Risk Report 2020 coming from the World Economic Forum, compiled by 3 world leading universities, hinted at us there will be human-made disasters and environmental disasters for the business, and be prepared. And when the disaster happened, when this was at the beginning stage, and we looked at China and made a lot of assumptions, and some of us were very comfortable, and this is in China. Look at US, they had the attitude, China is out, now the world order is going to be Western countries and US. We thought China is in a corner and it will not spread, and China will be affected, not us. And that assumption was grossly mistaken. And we had a very complacent mind because we try to avoid by human nature disasters and or to less associate with disasters. That complacency and the assumptions made us avoid all these real rational preparations and impact of assessment. This and we were not ready. And risk and compliance. I was wondering where these risk and compliance officers of business, what were they doing without listening to this, without listening to the signals, listening to noise. What were their advices? What were their business continuity plans? So largely we have been ignoring signals and only listening to noise. That's fundamental. I think somebody has given us a world of shock in the world to relook at ourselves. So after what happened, we still are on the diagnosis. If you see media, forums, global forums, local forums, we all are completely over-focused with diagnosis. Very little attention paid to the prognosis. Prognosis about how the future will behave, what business will evolve, what business will go out of, and what needs and new needs and wants will come into the market, what kind of products we have, and whether those will be catering to the same segments. Lots of questions we need to ask. Instead, we are basically focusing still on diagnosis of what has happened. How do we manage this situation? That's exactly what lots of people are talking about. Some people started cutting salaries, some people started cutting business, some people started closing down. All that because they were not geared with adaptability in their business. See, if you look at the COVID-19, the world predicted there are disruptions. Lots of people were focusing on the technological disruption, not man-made disruptions. That is one lapse in our strategic plan. We were ready about technological disruptions. We were ready about innovate disruptions, but we were not ready about this kind of disruption where human life was completely imprisoned virtually. Now, so this is an evolving environment. This is a disruptive environment. A lot of people are planning, okay, when this environment is fully open, we can do business. In my view, I don't think that we can fully open business. We have to plan a simple short cycle like every 2 months. We don't know how the environment is going to evolve. Remember, the virus itself has the ability and capability to evolve. So we don't know how the virus will respond to the environment and how the environment will respond to the virus. So it is an evolving disruptive environment, and this disruption will continue for next 9 months at least to settle down on a different level. And therefore, the prescriptive business strategies, historical records, structures of organization may not be valid. It will not succeed. You need some critical evaluation on the existing ones. Some is still trying to pursue their existing structures, existing businesses, existing product folios without really analyzing the environment and how the certain needs and wants are dying and certain needs and wants have newly emerged. Take for example, retail industry has to look at it critically how best they can develop the online retailing, and that has given COVID-19 restricted environment has shown the potential, and lots of customers got the taste of it, right? But still some people trying to pursue a physical retail environment which is offline. Still, I mean, without looking at how they can respond, and existing product and services, as I said, most importantly, the culture of the organization, the people's attitude and the ergonomics may not be valid. I will bring you simple ergonomics. Now we had these office environments which has very confined, congested cubicle and layout of office. Those office structures are no more valid. You have to have shown at least one. At least one. At least one 1 meter distance we'll have to maintain. So you need to relook at your structures, and also working from home. Working from home, has given a different value addition to the business. And lots of people mistaken working from home is basically reapply the 8 hours work at home, which is not that. It's a different psychology. It's a different way of working. So probably human resources management has to relook at how best they can evolve with new way of handling the human resources, looking at the compatibility and convenient factor of working, as well as how it can help to increase the productivity. So this is one example. I can see this slide. So we will so let me explain. Sorry for small technical interruption. Let me explain what has really happened. If you are looking at the something called strategic drift in business, some of you have heard about it, some of you have not. So let me explain in very quickly what is this strategic drift. See, environment keep changing. Forget about COVID. Environment keep changing, and yet businesses continue to have their products and services ignoring the environmental change. Jack Welch, 19th century to 18th century world-renowned CEO, always said the organizations who change themselves faster rate than the environment change, they thrive. The organization whose changing rate of changing is less than the rate of changing of the environment will always be in crisis. So whether or not the macro environment factors are correct, whether or not the economic factors are correct, some businesses were eternally in trouble purely because they have not responded to environmental changes. They thrive on past success. They continue to have the same strategy. So the slides explain. Excuse me, Irish, can you see my slides? Slides explain how the blue line explains how the environmental changes will grow, and how an organization will drift down without being in that line. So finally what happens is organization will lead into a crisis, and either you transformation or change and die. So what has happened in COVID? If you look at the COVID, suddenly the environment has changed in a complete different way than predicted. So you can see my blue dotted line. I mean, that's the example. And it will, if you look at these areas, it will continue to change. We don't know how it will change. So that's why I say the prescriptive models and past figures and based on historical data may not be valid. And more importantly, this is how environment has changed, and the new line, red dotted line, this is how we must be responding, or this is how the organizations are responding now, right? Still we are not in a clear understanding of what changes has happened in the environment and how did it impact on the basic needs and wants of the consumer, and how it has affected the ecosystems of the business, and how the dependencies and interdependency of business has responded. So this is a classic example of explaining what business is going through. This is simple framework. You can explain any business. So you can see the environment is changing, and suddenly environment has had a lot of disruption, which you can see from this part of the line, and you can see the red dotted line, how organization may respond. We may not reach the full we may not reach the environmental changes for sometimes, may not be compatible with the environment change for sometimes, because unless we understand fully, probably a vaccination for COVID-19 after about 1.5 years clinical trials may reach somewhere. So sometimes it might take a different turn with control, with the introduction of a control medicine, or if businesses change drastically, or if the technological innovation can respond to this social distancing and remote control of business and remote conducting of business. So that is exactly what really we can see, and we can, that is the prognosis of the whole uh, crisis, and that is the diagnosis of the whole crisis. So everybody who is participating today must be wondering, okay, how are we going? Everybody can say this has happened, this has happened. But how are we going to respond? How to do? A lot of people can say what to do, but a lot of people don't know how to do. So number one is you need to check or to analyze detailed analysis what has happened to your ecosystem. Say if you are in hotel industry, the tourists may not come purely because of the quarantine system, and the inland hospital system has to completely vacant, and no tourist will like to go through 14 days quarantine. In that sense, how you change? If you're in manufacturing industry, let's for garment industry, how we are going to shift from cloth manufacturing to PPE equipment, personal protection equipment manufacturing like gloves, all that. Suddenly the PPE industry has gone up by almost $4.5 billion in the world. It might go even little more. And you need to identify what areas have suddenly impact rather than reacting by cutting salaries of the employees and looking at suppliers and delaying payments and all that. Remember, some other people ask me, Mihindu, how do we respond to this? What do you think about cutting salaries? Remember, human resources and their skills, their knowledge are the most important asset that you have at this moment. But if you disrupt them, they will completely ignore, because you're basically disrupting the psychological contract with the people. The psychological contract is more important than the letter of appointment. I hope you understand what I mean. This is how the modern psychology works in business. Human resources management is not restricted to letter of appointment and the new environment, right? You need to have more connection with people in terms of relationships. So you need to look at a different plan. You need to formulate a different plan to solve the changes of the ecosystem, and continue to review. Why I'm saying continue to review, this is not about annual review, this is not about a biannual review. This is a constant review, ongoing review until the environment settles down. Say, well, a lot of people are planning to start business August, and they wanted to forecast from August to December. You may have the forecast, but you need to evaluate your forecast every month. Say some businesses have to be prepared to run the working capital. You have to do your working capital management without expected revenue. You have to prepare for that worst case scenario. And some businesses were not, and that's why some businesses are struggling with finance. That is pretty important in a crisis like this. And key change that I have seen, whether it in America, whether it in Europe, whether it in China, whether it in India, people or business leaders haven't understood this key change. There are no more standalone business. Even if you take the giant businesses like Facebook or Google, BNB, or take Alibaba, there's no standalone business. Nobody can claim this is my business, I do the way I want. Not even Amazon.com, right? Not even Microsoft, right? There are no more standalone business like Ford those days, or Mitsubishi those days, or Toyota those days. And today business have started changing gradually from standalone business to network business. This is a key change that you must understand. That is why I say that your existing strategy of business plus your internal structures, human resources have to be relooked at with the ecosystem changes. So finally, it's a simple theory. We don't need to complicate. I have seen some people complicate this one and put unnecessary stress on them. But finally, what you need to understand, the basic what we need is the change management of this sudden strategic drift. A lot of people don't understand strategic drift. A lot of people don't discuss, because that's a very unpleasant business and unpleasant topic to talk about. And that will reveal your own mistakes also. So change management of sudden strategic drift. Where are we? Where is the environment? Find out that gap. And you might have to revisit your strategy. So it's about strategic management, and strategic management will tell you how best you can reorganize and remobilize your human resources and other resources, and looking at organizational and human behavior to respond and continue your business. So we have come to an end of very short presentation. I would like to leave the forum to our moderator Iresh Pereira, and you can ask any questions. Make it a nice we can make it a nice discussion, and I invite you to fire your questions at will. Thank you. Over to you.